Paul Brackwell from Aston Villa. Welcome to Finland, first of all.
Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I've got a teaching background. I was a sports teacher for 27 years, but I've coached football all my life as well during that time. I had to stop playing myself quite young, so I moved onto coaching very young and was fortunate enough to work my way through the coaching badges. I've managed 3 semi-professional adult teams in the past, and I had 12 years with one of the national teams, the England schoolboy team, under 18s, 9 years as assistant manager and then 3 years as manager. That took me to 9 different countries and over 60 internationals. I'm proud to lead the team out in 18 of those. While I was with the England schoolboy team, Aston Villa approached me to the view of getting involved on the coaching staff on a part-time basis while I was teaching. So I did that for 4 years, and then I was in a position where my current role, which is Head of Education and Welfare for the football club, that was offered to me, and at that time I was looking to come out of teaching, and I've always felt that I could offer something to the professional game, so it gave me that opportunity. So I've been at the football club for 14 years now. Don't do quite so much coaching as I used to, and it's mainly the education and welfare side of all the young players.
Do you go checking on these young talents who come to Villa every time?
We do with foreign players, because it's important that we get an understanding of their education background and a little bit more about themselves, because we take education very seriously at the football club. All our players that join us full-time at 16 have to do a 2-year compulsory education programme. But with some of the foreign players whose English may not be of a standard to do our courses, then it's important that they continue with their own studies. That's why I'm here now, because we've been discussing Jonas continuing with his Finnish studies, which we think he can. We check all our boys, so even our own English players, we have their education background. I will visit their schools, and so that we can put them on the right courses when they join full-time. Foreign players obviously a little bit different, so yes, we do take the time to come out and get that background if we need to.
So you end up traveling quite a bit?
Yes, it can be, yeah. But it's very worthwhile, and it's part of what we think is doing the job properly and looking after the young players the best we can.
So the world is going to the sort of like direction that there are no foreign players, or so there are just good players or bad players?
In our academy, we don't have too many foreign players. We like to produce our own first, but each year is different, so we'll look at our under 16 group each year and decide how many of those we want to offer a full-time contract to. And if the number is small, we then have to look outside the football club to other football clubs in England, and then wider. So this year we will be taking 3 foreign players, and that's unusual for us. We only have 2 or 3 foreign players in the full-time program.
So you have met Jonas and seen him obviously at your club and
Yes.
playing. What's your impression of him?
I've only seen him play twice, to be fair, but from my impression as a coach, technically he looks good. As a left-sided defender. Physically, he will have a lot to learn in the English game, and he needs to learn quickly. It's a physical game in England, and unless he steps up on the physical side, he will have some problems early on. He looks as though he will be a reasonable tall player, which is quite important in England, because, as I say, he is quite physical, and the ball spends a lot of time in both penalty areas, which is, we don't always play on the ground as much as I would like, as a coach, and so defenders have a lot to do. They do need to be physical. If it, we will see.
So, you visiting now Seinäjoki for a couple of days. What's your first impression when you got here?
First impression, it's very much like England. It's raining, it's cold, it's quite breezy. So a little bit like home from home. It took 2 flights to get here, changing at Helsinki, so quite a long journey. But the family have been very good to me, picked me up at the airport, and I was actually booked into the wrong hotel, which was not a good start. I was booked into the hotel in Vasa instead of here, so we sorted that out quite well. And what I am impressed with is the sports facilities in the area, which is something that most countries seem to have, apart from us. If you go to Holland, Belgium, France, places like that, each small town has a multi-sport complex, which is the centre for the community, and a number of different sports, which is fantastic. We don't have that in England, so that's something to be admired. And the facilities here where we are now, and from what I hear at the football club, they seem to be very good. So yeah, quite impressed by my first visit to Finland, so it's a new experience.
So where are you heading next? Have you got any clue if there's some new talent coming up for you from other countries?
We've already agreed to take 2 Swedish boys, but those boys, their English is a different level to Jonas, so they're actually going to come on to our courses, our education programs, because they'll be able to cope with them quite well. With Jonas, it's slightly different because of his standard of English, so we'll be heavily tutoring him in English from day 1, and he will continue with some of his Finnish studies and then build that up later on. I don't think he will come onto our program in the 2 or 3 years. He will follow his Finnish studies and work towards the qualification here, and we will help him a lot with his English with private tuition.
Do you have any idea of the rate of academy players graduating to first team?
We currently have the best record of getting players through our academy system at some stage and into the first team. The statistics usually say 1 every 2 years. If you get 1 every 2 years that starts to feature in the first team, you're actually doing really well and perhaps overachieving. We've had about 17 players in 14 or 15 years, so we have really, on those figures, drastically overachieved. That's drying up a little bit now because the talent pool is not quite so great as it has been in recent years. But our first team is always full of completely different academic abilities. I actually think that the more academic a player is, the better player is likely to be. I don't think it affects their ability, but it affects their thinking and their decision making. The more academically bright they are. That's my opinion.
And things off the field.
Yes. You certainly don't need to be intelligent to play football, but if you are academically intelligent, it can help you to be a better team player because you are thinking slightly more ahead than maybe the lesser academic. And decision making, I think, does tend to be better. But that's only my own opinion.
For the last few words of your first team, still need few points.
Yes, the last 2 years, and this year being the 3rd year, we've been in a position towards this stage of the season, towards the end of the season with 6 games left. We've been in a position where we don't want to be, and that's threat of relegation. The last 2 years we've just managed to avoid that. 2 years ago I think it went to the last game, and last year it went to the last but 1 game. and this year we are a little bit concerned at the moment. We had a bad result last week against Fulham at home, where a result there may have just made us safe. So with 6 games to go, we definitely need some more points to be safe. Maybe 1 win might do it. 2 wins out of 6 games would certainly be okay. We're relying a little bit on teams below us being worse than we are, which is not a good situation to be in. But we haven't had the results at home this year that we should have had. We've lost too many games at home. We've done reasonably well away, and it's not the usual way round. But yes, it's not been a good 2 or 3 years, but the club it's going through a transition with financial restraints and difficult times, and it's important to get through that and stay in the Premier League, because it is an excellent league, and to come out of that it would be a bit of a disaster. So it's a fingers crossed, nervous last few weeks.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.